Let's get talking as the anticipation builds for the upcoming 2024 conference of the Nigerian Development and Finance Forum. Stakeholders and leaders across various sectors are gearing up to engage in conversations that will shape the future of Nigeria's economy, with a focus on driving sustainable development and fostering inclusive growth. This year's conference is poised to be a catalyst for change, innovation, and progress in Nigeria's economic spheres. But what more do we need to know about this and look forward to? I have the right person in the studio. He's the Chief Executive Officer, Financial Nigeria International, and the convener of the Nigerian Development and Finance Forum, Mr. Jide Akintunde. Thank you so much. It's good to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much for having me. Good day to you.
Yes, and I'll say happy Eid Maulud to you too.
Absolutely. And happy Salah celebrations to Nigerians everywhere.
That's a good way to start it. I was reading through this and I'm seeing that this is the first time this is happening in Nigeria. It happened in the United States and some other countries. Why Nigeria? What more should we know about this NDFF?
Okay. Thank you. NDFF stands for Nigeria Development and Finance Forum.
Yeah.
We convened this conference in 2008 as a form of providing support to the reform agenda in Nigeria internationally. So the first NDFF actually held outside this country, first in London, 3 times actually, and then later on in Washington, D.C., and then the last one held in New York. The idea is to provide independent briefings to the policy community globally, the investors internationally, as well as to the Nigerians in diaspora, so that they can have a better understanding of the reform agenda in Nigeria and what opportunities that they are springing forth for action, that is investment action in the country. You know, because we noticed way back then that Nigeria had actually committed to market reforms, and we thought that it was important to amplify what is being done locally, internationally. That was why we conceived of this series of conference. Now, this year, NDFF is going to hold in Nigeria for the first time for a reason. We really do believe that there is a need, and this need is being addressed by the current administration, to rein in issues around macroeconomic variables that are actually creating certain impacts that people are worried about. So this conference will try to put into perspective what the government is doing, what the market participants should be doing, you know, as well as create the expectation in the citizens that the economy is ultimately going to go back to growth and that things are going to get better.
It sounds so interesting, considering the drive by Mr. President. He's visited series of countries and he's always telling them Nigeria is opened for business. So I think this is really apt. I must commend that. But tell us again where it would hold this very time.
Thank you. The 2024 Nigeria Development and Finance Forum is set to hold at Transcorp Hilton, Abuja, on the 8th and the 9th of May 2024. Now, it is a 2-day event. On the first day of the conference, we are going to open with what, of course, is the opening ceremonies. And during this ceremony, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be giving the welcome address. We have invited members of the diplomatic corps, business leaders, and leaders of civil society organization. So we expect that this is going to be a very, very impactful program. Apart from this opening session, which we dovetailed into the main sessions of the conference, we will be addressing over 4 sessions on day 1. Issues around fiscal management, issues around monetary policy, and issues around healthcare and social welfare. And finally, we're going to be talking about the sustainability issues in the Nigerian economy. We'll talk a little more about these things a little later. But on conference day 2, we also have a packed agenda whereby we will be taking briefings from 2 state governments on the reform agenda in their states and what opportunities for investment that these states has for the investing community. Now, apart from this, we are going to be having 2 industry-focused sessions. The first one is going to be on the blue economy. Again, we know that the current administration has prioritized what it calls the marine and the blue economy, especially because of the capacity for economic growth in this sector as well as job creation. So for the very first time, we saw that there is a ministry that has been carved out to cater to this particular subject. So we will be bringing in stakeholders in the blue economy to discuss the how to leverage government's commitments and create jobs and spur economic growth in that sector. Right. And then finally, we will have a special session on the green economy. Now, this particular session is actually aimed at helping Nigeria to understand the issues around the transitional economy. Now, Nigeria is transitioning economically speaking on various dimensions, but the one that we are focusing on actually is the transition to a low carbon economy, whereby we're going to be looking at issues around innovation, we're going to be looking at issues around agriculture and food security, we're going to be looking at issues around energy, sustainable energy. So this is a conference that has been specially curated to address the issues that are very germane to what the government wants to achieve, now what the market needs to know, as well as what the people themselves need to understand as the outlook of Nigeria as a country and as an economy.
Let's stay a bit with the theme, the road to economic and social welfare transformation. Why this at this time?
This is very good. This is a very good question. Now, the theme of the conference, like you have said, is the road to economic and social welfare transformation. Now, what we have done at the forum is to actually take a good look at what are the priorities of the government. And we have understood from just looking at the commitments that the government has made that the government is interested in enhanced fiscal management in Nigeria to create economic growth as well as spur job creation. Now, we also know that there is a lot of efforts, and all Nigerians see this now, that at the CBN, there is a renewed focus on macroeconomic stability. So we have seen certain policies that have been addressed at bringing down inflation, for instance. Now, and the third one is that there is also a new ministry, so to speak, created to amplify the link between health and social welfare. So for the first time, we have a ministry that is called the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. So we are also going to be focusing on issues around health and social welfare. So like I said, what is common to all these sessions and how this conference theme ties everything together is that we are looking at providing a very strong support for the efforts of government at seeing a transformation and a transition in the Nigerian economy for growth, for progress, as well as for social welfare.
That's brilliant. That's putting all together, achieving health, social welfare, and all of this. Let's now look at, I was also reading through that, some interesting speakers here. Minister Ali Pathe is supposed to deliver the opening speech to the event, or keynote speech at the event. Who else will be speaking that you think will definitely excite everyone to want to be there?
Thank you very much. Right, so like I said, we have sessions that will address issues around fiscal management. And for that, we are going to have the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy in the person of Mr. Wale Edun. He will be giving a keynote address on that subject. It's essentially to provide a roadmap for Nigeria's economic transformation, focusing on what are the short-term, the medium-term, and the long-term targets of fiscal policy management in Nigeria. Now, structurally, for every keynote address, there will be a panel session.
Okay.
So for this panel session, we have, for this keynote address, we have a panel session that will be looking at issues around how will Nigeria, I mean, definitely currently in some sort of crisis economically, all right, because inflation rate is not where policymakers want it to be. There's high unemployment rate. So we are going to be looking at issues around taking the first efforts of government at providing palliative to actually transition it to where we will be looking at strong job creation and shared prosperity.
From palliative to that.
Absolutely.
Job creation and shared prosperity.
So the panel for that include, in fact, let me just emphasize this.
Yes, please.
The structure of this dialogue is that a senior government official that is relevant to the conversation will deliver the keynote address. And then we decided that we will have a strategic interface of policy by bringing in leaders in the international sector, leaders in the private sector, and leaders in the social sector to engage the idea that the government has put on the table. So our panels are constructed along these lines, and for all our panels, we have representatives of the international organizations in Nigeria. So, for instance, the leadership of the United Nations, from the World Bank to UNDP, to International Labour Organization, to the World Meteorological Organization. I mean, we have put them on the appropriate panels to focus the searchlight on what are the opportunities that they themselves are working to help Nigeria realize, and what the market participant, for instance, the private sector organization, can contribute to move the agenda of achieving the Nigerian moving sustainable development agenda in Nigeria to achievements. Now, apart from fiscal policy, we are also going to be looking at issues around monetary policy, establishing a situation where Nigeria will have clarity about what exactly is going to happen. Some people say that we have seen some movement, initially upward movements in the foreign exchange rate, and now we see that the exchange rate is coming down. But people are not very certain, for instance, that what is the band that the exchange rate will eventually stabilize on, for instance. We don't know that, you know. And these things are very, very important for investors, for people who want to bring money into the system.
Yes.
You know, so what we have done is to invite the governor of the central bank, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, to give a keynote address on this issue, so that CBN itself can continue to communicate its outlook, you know, with the market. So we also expect that after that, our panel will engage. I will make mention of some of these panelists once I have gone through who the keynote speakers are. Now, and then finally, on the government side, we are focusing on the issue of social welfare. Now, we have invited Professor Muhammad Ali Pate, who has graciously accepted to give the keynote address for this session. Now, this session is very, very important, like every other one, because it is also looking at health, not just from the standpoint of government policy to mediate, improve public health, but to actually look at what is the role of investors. What are the opportunities that government itself want to see created, so that the private sector can move in capital to invest, you know. And then we're also looking at what is the perception and what is the expectation that people will have with regard to their health and social welfare, you know, over the next 5 years, for instance. Because the government itself has said that its approach to health is that it should be what it calls the all of government approach and all of society approach. You know, so we will have a keynote address on that subject. And then, of course, we will have a panel session. Now, apart from the representatives and the country heads of the UN who will be on all these panels, we have notable Nigerians like Ulisa Agbakoba, SAN. As a panelist, we have CEOs of international institutions, like, for instance, the African Finance Corporation, because these people are waiting to move financing to opportunities that are linked to what government priorities are. We have Dr. Amina Salihu, who is a very strong voice in the social space in Nigeria. I mean, the list are on. We have over 30 confirmed speakers for this conference.
Wow. Now, on a final note, because our time is almost gone, who and who should attend? And are there openings for maybe sponsorship?
Oh, yeah. I take it from the second one.
Yeah, I take it from the second
Obviously.
one.
Yeah, so we welcome sponsorship from
partnerships, opportunities
for media organizations, and we are very happy to announce that TVC is a media partner to NDFF.
Great, that's a good one. That's a good one for us.
So we are expecting that corporate Nigerians would see this high-quality conference as an opportunity to showcase their brands by having their CEO come on one of our panels, as well as, the showcase as some of our sponsors. With regard to who will be attending, now, this is a high-level event, and we have specially targeted participants for these events. So we are looking at leaders, generally speaking, in the policy space. So senior government officials, regulators, policy makers, members of the House of Assembly, representative of state governments, and then, of course, we move to the private sector space where we're looking at business leaders, the international space where we're looking at the members of the diplomatic corps in Nigeria, for instance, and then, of course, in the social space where we're looking at people who are leading voices and people who have impact in communities and in industries in Nigeria. That is the structure of our program.
I really wish you all the best, and like you said, TVC will definitely be there with you. Thank you so much. I've been speaking to Mr. Jide Akintunde as the CEO of Financial Nigeria International, also the convener of Nigeria Development and Finance Forum. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
All right.